Thanks for tuning in to another show in the next Reel family of film podcasts.
Want to skip those ads and get early access?
Become a member at truestory.fm/join and discover all the other great perks that come with it.
The film board gathers this month. We're diving headfirst into Edgar Wright's The Running Man, his sharp-edged, more faithful riff on Stephen King's dystopian Manhunt, now reimagined with handsome Glenn Powell sprinting for both survival and the truth.
You know, I've been thinking about the show. For the next 30 days, everyone in the country is trying to murder me. And that's crazy, right?
People on these games never come back.
We have no choice. We need money for a doctor now.
Welcome to The Running Man. Contestants will be hunted for 30 days. Anyone can kill you.
Hunt them down!
If you're hearing this, congratulations. You've made it past the first checkpoint, and the cameras haven't caught you yet, because tonight, we're stepping into the world where entertainment is weaponized, truth is negotiable, and the only thing moving faster than Glenn Powell's quads is the network's propaganda machine. It's a place where every choice is content, every breath is broadcast, and the only thing more dangerous than the hunters on your tail is a producer with a deep fake suite and a ratings problem. So lace up, because we're not talking about a remake, we're talking about a 30-day sprint through a broken society where class warfare is televised, rebellion is branded, and the truth needs a counter-broadcast just to stay alive. Joining me on the run tonight, analytic tactician Steve Sarmento, chaos specialist Tommy Metz III, media mythbuster Matthew Fox, and the narrative wild card herself, Mandy Kaplan. So grab your tracking beacons, keep an eye out for the drones, and whatever you do, don't let the network rewrite your face. This is The Running Man.
Is that your Coleman Domingo?
Yeah, that's my whole thing.
I love it.
God, takes a lot, you guys. Hi, welcome to The Running Man. Glad to have you all here. So, we have a big board today. We have a big film board, and I think it's a big film board because we have some notorious Stephen King fans. I think I'm speaking truth when I say that me and Mandy, you're not a novel a fan of Stephen King, right, Mandy?
I like some of his books. I haven't read many, but...
There you go. I like some of his books, too. I haven't read many. But I think we have people here who have read many and have thoughts. So I look forward to talking about the how this, quote, more faithful adaptation, Edgar Wright's more faithful adaptation, went down for the readers. First, this segment brought to you by Tommy Metz III, the opening thoughts segment.
It's still going to be my segment after all this time.
Yeah,
yes,
it never ends.
I am in an interesting place because if I didn't know who directed this movie, I would have liked it even more. But the fact that the director was Edgar Wright made the movie lack for me, unfortunately. And so while I did enjoy it, and I thought it had some really great segments, overall, I thought it was kind of a bumpy run. Is that
what they call it?
I don't even know if that's
a bumpy
pun.
run.
A bumpy, yeah. It was pretty inconsistent for me, but I do like it better than the. I like how it is much more representative of the novella than the Arnold Schwarzenegger one, and so I enjoyed seeing it.
Okay, Steve Sarmento, opening thoughts.
So I read the book back in 1980 something, and that's the last time I read it. So my recollection is pretty slim as far as it comes to comparisons to the original. I know the ending. Those were some things that stuck with me. And then having watched, the 1987 version just moments prior to watching this one, I really, really enjoyed this. I set aside any expectations going in. Yes, I know we selected this because this was an Edgar Wright film, but I put that aside and said, let me just see what this movie is going to bring. And I just went on the ride of my life and had a great time from beginning to end. Yes, there were some bumps. It's not a perfect film, but came out of this just having had a great time with it and really, really enjoyed it.
Okay. Matthew Fox, opening thoughts.
I think the first 70 to 80% of this movie were a lot of fun and pretty good. And especially if I hadn't read the book, I think I would have really enjoyed those. And I do think that it was a lot closer to the movie, a lot closer to that book than the Schwarzenegger movie. I then thought that the end was very disappointing, particularly because it goes wildly different than the book, and I have a whole thing I want to talk about with that, especially when you realize there's another book by him that the ending also changes dramatically that came out a month ago. There's an interesting conversation we had there. But also because as I was getting towards the end of the movie, I was like, are you going to set up a sequel? Are you setting up a trilogy? And I didn't like that idea. But then actually they gave me the entire second and third movie in the last 5 minutes, and I liked that idea even less. So I thought that the end of the movie was, even without any connection to the novella, very disappointing. But with the novella, I think there's kind of an interesting conversation about why we kind of injected a whole bunch of hope into a story that I thought was not supposed to be there.
Right. Mandy Kaplan, The Running Mandy, opening thoughts.
The Running Mandy. I just want to say that I really liked it. I thought it was tons of fun, very action-packed, but good laughs and heart. I'm a huge Glenn Powell fan, and I will try to control myself. He definitely wore too many clothes, but
so many clothes.
I think he's a fine actor, and I think he's the ultimate movie star right now. So I found him utterly enjoyable and scary in how much rage he had all the time, and I thought it was effective. And it wasn't a perfect movie, but it was fun and well worth the ride.
Okay, so far I'm feeling hopeful, more hopeful than the book. I had a great time. I am firmly in Camp Tom. Edgar Wright is one of my very favorite directors. I went to this movie looking for the charm and the charisma and the straight up cleverness of something like Last Night in Soho, of Baby Driver, of, all of the recent...
Pilgrim.
Yeah, right. Scott Pilgrim for sure. And I didn't get that. This was a straight across the bow kind of action film. And I couldn't help walking out of the movie thinking, you're better than this one, Edgar. You're better than this one. You are a better director than this movie. And I still enjoyed the hell out of it. I really had a great time. I'm not mad. I'm disappointed.
Poor Edgar. That is the worst.
Devastating. Yeah.
Devastating. That's the truth. Let us begin, if we can, with just a little bit of that sweet, sweet Stephen King fandom. Because I think, as we all know, anybody who loves movies knows that any Stephen King adaptation is a guaranteed hit. I mean, out of the park, box office gold. For those of you who really love the Stephen Kinginess of The Running Man and a little bit of that sweet, sweet narrative book history, let's talk about that. And I'll give it to, Steve, you already outed yourself as decades ago having read the book. Tom, Matthew, where would you guys like to start?
Well, first I'll just say, Stephen King, at the time Stephen King wrote this novella, he was really known as a monster under the bed writer. This was when It had come out. I don't believe The Stand had come out. He had not yet written some of the books that were more like post-apocalyptic. Like there's that series. It's not The Highwaymen. It's the I don't know. But he was really, that was the kind of books he wrote. And so he also wanted to write these dystopian books. And he wrote a series of novellas that were either dystopian or about just really bad shit happening, but were very much more psychological than Monster Under the Bed. And he wrote them under the name Richard Bachman. And they were all published under the Bachman books. And this was one of them. In the novel, I assume we're spoilers galore here, right?
Yes, all spoilers.
I think both, and this one and The Long Walk, which is why it's so interesting to me, and I wonder what was happening in Hollywood, because The Long Walk movie came out just a month ago. Both of them are set in a dystopian future where, for unspecified reasons, a kind of fascist dictatorship has taken over. I thought the movie was very faithful to this. And in a classic breads and circuses kind of way, the network keeps people entertained by these horrific, sadistic game shows. It's quite literally just the Coliseum come back. And it's everything from people with heart conditions and blood pressure issues having to walk on a treadmill for dollars through, swim the sharks, up to the Running Man being the biggest one. And I think in the novel, it very much is the same kind of a story of him, his like a lot of the details are very exact. His daughter is sick. His wife, I'll say something about the kind of the way sexuality is treated in this movie in a second, but like she's not going to a strip club to make money. She's having to do more full service sex work as a prostitute on the streets to earn money. He goes in, he tries to do any other game. He gets into the Running Man. And a lot of the details are very similar, though I would say for the most part, the book, everything is just a little bit darker, a little bit grimier, a little bit less hopeful. And he encounters people along the way in the book, very much like the movie, who clearly also hate the network, who want to fight back. But it's like, it feels to me like the entirety of the book is in the first half of the first Hunger Games book. Whereas the movie, that's what I meant about speed running it, because the book ends with him realizing that he gets this offer. His wife and daughter are dead. They're definitely dead in the book. And getting the offer to become the Grand Hunter, turning it down and crashing the plane he's on into the network tower. And so it's kind of a moment of hope, but it's very much okay, all he can do is end his life, but he can strike a blow. He won't allow himself to be eaten by the system, and maybe he can start this comeback. Which it just felt very contrasted to the movie, I thought, in which, we're kind of at that point, but then actually his wife and daughter are okay, and actually it's causing this whole rebellion, and actually people all over chanting, Richard lives, and then, oh, by the way, the entire revolution happens in the last 5 minutes. Tommy, is that a fairly accurate kind of go into of the details?
Absolutely. Yeah.
But that's Hollywood, right? I mean, Hollywood is always going to be like, don't worry, the family's really alive.
I don't think that's always true, but I do think it is where Edgar Wright is maybe the weirdest choice for this property, because Edgar Wright really prefers human connection over nihilism, and this is a nihilistic, everything is dark part of Stephen King's era, right? Like, this is Edgar Wright is shaped around community. It's shaped around, friendship makes the world better, and he believes in the power of media, not hopelessness brought from it. And so this, in some respects, is this a little bit high jump, low ceiling?
I don't know what you mean by the high jump, low ceiling. I agree with everything else that you said.
Edgar Wright making this movie, is that maybe the weirdest choice of hearing this, that it exists?
No, because of what you just said. And I think that goes to the ending of the hope and the community piece. And that may be why he was perhaps drawn to this. I think there's less of his style because, I mean, you look at his past couple films, it's not like he's been, making big movies that are doing really well. Last Night in Soho had a budget of $40 million. It made 22 at the box office. So throwing this at him with a $110 million budget, I can understand why there's going to be some constraints on don't get too weird with this one. There's a lot behind this. But I can see, so you don't get those specific flourishes, but I think that is the hope at the end of this, with this character who, Ben is, presented as this guy who's got these anger issues, but it's Glenn Powell. And by the end, and he is charming. And so you can't have that nihilistic ending with this actor. It's a different story. And to me, then makes sense because it plays right into that type of ending of, yes, there is a turn for things because you have to have this hope when you're releasing a movie around the holidays with a big box office star. You're not going to leave people feeling miserable about this, about how crappy the world is and how media companies run everything. You've got to give them some hope of, hey, there is a way out of this. It's how realistic is this that it's going to start a revolution? For us, no, but it gives people that uplift at the end. And so for me, there was enough lightness throughout the story as well. The action, you've got some great comic moments in there. that built towards the end that for me made it feel like a complete piece. And there's enough quirk in it, I think, with like Michael Cera, that felt like Edgar Wright to me. That whole sequence felt very true. That's where I saw Edgar Wright show up in this film, is that whole piece. So that's sort of where I feel it is him being given a little bit of room to play, see if he can get his magic back that he had before, and finding what that right property is. But because of the stakes being so high, we're not going to let him off the leash completely.
And I'm fine with them changing the ending. I was assuming they would change the ending because, I mean, in the novella, Richard Bachman was obsessed with intestines. Everyone's always holding their intestines inside.
Yes.
Like he is so injured and so on his way towards death.
Tripping over them,
that he might as well. Yeah, every Richard Bachman, every character rips out a throat, which isn't rips out their own throat, which isn't a thing, and holds their own intestines in, which isn't a thing. Either way, I was fine with the idea of turning it around. The way that they did it almost felt like a reshoot. Like it felt so hurried and tacked on. And when you're checking in to be an audience for a game show, they don't check if you brought Molotov cocktails. Like it just seemed like, let's just run quick. Like let's just, and then end the movie as fast as we can. It felt like I was wondering if they did shoot the original ending because he's in the hovercraft or whatever that thing is.
Mm-hmm.
Like, did they? And then people went no, and they didn't have enough time to really write out a good ending because I just thought it was so weird.
I hate to push back, Tommy, but have you ever tried to pull your own throat out? I mean, you're saying empirically it can't be done.
That's a good point. That's a
Mandy
good point.
would like to test that. I'd like to see somebody test that.
Yeah. Tommy, I just want to underline, Tommy, what you were saying. I really wonder if maybe it's some draft they thought there was going to be a sequel, because that's what I meant about those ending, it feeling like it was so rushed, because going from the point of the plane maybe crashing to the next season beginning in the revolution, it just feels like 3 movies worth of stuff happens in 3 minutes.
Interesting.
No, yeah. I think the appearance of the character of the Apostle at the end tells me that was the intent of this. You introduced that character early on to give us that quick, like, this is the reality of this. These are the tropes that this game show runs by. And then to bring that character back at the end, to me, it would have felt weird if he showed up at the beginning. We never saw him again. So for me, it was nice closure to have Palsa come back to feed us. It was a little bit of Deus Ex Machina. I've got to cram a bunch of information at you. Here's how he really escaped, all that. But it felt so consistent with where we are in 2025 of, conspiracy theorist videos and on YouTube. And let me show you what's really going on. All that felt very much of something audiences are used to. And it fit into that and was a nice bridge from where the book ends, bringing the Apostle to explain how he escapes, all of these things that happens, and then leads us to that. What are the consequences of this, right? What happens because he is able to survive this, and give us that to wrap it up. So I don't think that they would have shot the real ending, because to me, the balance of that Apostle character, to me, speaks to introduce him early on. You got to bring him back at the end.
Yeah, I think I was thinking more that it would end with the Apostle.
Oh,
and
okay.
then the second movie is, we know he escaped, but what happened?
Although the Apostle bit, I have to say, like there, and I'll say this with all due respect, one of my very favorite movies is Hudson Hawk, and you remember that bit at the end where Danny Aiello comes back and he says, "Airbags, can you believe it?" Right? That's a little bit about how I felt when the Apostle is explaining the compartment in this plane that has the parachutes as they float down. Can you believe it? Parachutes on the cockpit. Can you believe it? That's what I felt like. I was like, this is too much. And yet part of me just wants to love on that because it's Edgar Wright, and I know he probably thinks that's funny. I want to believe that he thinks that's a funny bit. That's a bit of the satire. The other piece, the other bigger question for me is, I agree that this was, obviously this is not a truly faithful ending. Can you, even today, 2025, can you make a big budget movie where you fly a plane into a skyscraper?
Oh, I didn't even think about that.
No, which is why this should have been on TV. I think, Steve, when you were talking, I was like, if you want to make that movie, that's fine. I just wish they hadn't made it for the story. And granted, I'm the guy on the film board who generally thinks TV is much better than movies these days. But I think this would have been fantastic as a 4-episode series on a Netflix or a Amazon Prime or something. Because you're probably right. It felt incredibly Hollywood at the end. It felt very like, instead of actually talking about the issues King was talking about, let's act like Revolution's really easy and simple and it's Disney and everyone's happy. Because, yeah, I don't think you can do that in a movie anymore. At least not right now.
Not a movie with this targeted audience. Not a 4-quadrant movie.
Well, was this movie, would you say this is trying to capture the same audience as Tron? People who like big, high-tech action movies?
Yes.
Yeah.
Pete's considering that. But I mean,
I think it's in the category, yeah.
In that context, this was so far superior in its societal commentary, in its action, in its acting, in its everything. It was just much more enjoyable, and it hit points home about where society could be heading and is heading, but not in a way that was like beating me over the head. I get it. Now I'm depressed. It was just to serve this exciting adrenaline hit. So for that, I was grateful.
For sure. Let us talk about the Glenn Powell-ness of it. Mandy, you already said it.
Okay.
Glenn Powell is a movie star. Yeah, I mean,
And that was
he
Tommy's
did all right.
voice, by the way.
Did anybody have any issues with Glenn Powell? And I say that not as a leading question, because I don't think I did. I think that guy just, he rolled an 18 charisma. I love the guy. Like, I could watch him in just about anything. And I sometimes wonder, when you have this like superhero of a movie star kind of come into his own power and authority in the world, I wonder, okay, at what point is he going to stop being Glenn Powell and figure out how to be someone? His face is just so perfect. I mean, everything's perfect.
Have you watched Chad Powers?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I mean, I think Chad Powers is a stretch. He wrote it. He developed it. He's playing this very bumbling, different character that he has created on the show. And I think it shows that he has real chops and he's not relying on his charisma. You disagree?
Yeah. I don't disagree. And I like that. I still see a lot of Glenn Powell, right? Like, it's just, and some actors, that's who they are. They're going to be that. Isn't that part of why Tom Cruise does things like the fat suit in the Vietnam movie with
Tropic Thunder.
Stiller, Tropic Thunder. Yeah. Just to hide a little bit from the fact that you're always Tom Cruise. Tom Cruise is Glenn Powell in that trajectory. That may be a bigger question that we want to take on. How did you like Glenn Powell as our Ben in The Running Man? Tom, you go first.
I thought he was great. I thought he was a good choice for it. I'm not fully on the Glenn Powell train as much as I'm supposed to be, because I do find him a little one note at times, but he has definitely more than one note, and he got to play some different ones during this. The rage was really believable. The humor was believable, and I believed him as a father. It worked. I thought he really checked every box that was needed.
Okay.
Especially following up such a one-note performance like from Arnold Schwarzenegger. Because, I mean, that got the job done, but this had a lot more to do, which was fun.
Well, I think for this story, if you're going to say that Ben Richards is this catalyst that's going to cause this revolution, you need somebody that's as charismatic and likable as a Glenn Powell to do this, because you can't just have a rage-filled father that's just going to burn everything to the ground and that's all he is, because then why do people root for him? There's got to be something to care about this guy. You've got to want him to win. So I think that's the perfect piece for him, because even as he's stumbling through to figure out how to survive day to day, he does it in such a charming way that, yes, as people see him, get to know him, it's like, yeah, you want this guy to win out in the end. I think it takes that type of casting. It couldn't be an actor that gets lost in the character. It's got to be that, like a Tom Cruise, a Brad Pitt, somebody like that who's who's got that ability to be charming and with some acting chops as well.
And some physicality too.
Oh, yeah.
Sure.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Just the movie does seem to be a little nervous about that, though. The fact that he's so rage filled because they set him up like he saves 19 cats in the first 20 minutes of this movie.
Yeah.
He couldn't be a better person.
Yes.
Even when he's in trouble for sticking up for his fellow coworkers and all that stuff. I mean, the movie really bends over backwards script-wise to make sure that we're on his side.
And I think that's why I thought his charisma was an 18 from the beginning. And I think that made him a lot of fun. And I would really be excited to watch him. And I will admit that with Mandy, I will be very happy. If they do a Magic Mike remake and he's starring in it, I am there. But to me, even putting aside the book, I feel like I didn't get the rage because he's so charismatic. To me, part of rage is that you're so angry that it's pushing people away. And yeah, I am going to bring up the book here. To me, one of the keys of the book, and that I thought they were going for in the movie, is this idea of that his experiences, especially with the two black brothers, but also somewhat with Michael Cera, is what starts to give him hope again. And that he starts to see and that starts because he starts from a place of being so angry at the rest of the world. And I think it's kind of like, in some ways, Glenn Powell is too charismatic to play that, or at least wasn't good enough to no one asked him to turn it off, because I think, to me, I never, when they say you're the most rage-filled candidate that we've ever seen, I kind of did a double take, because you're right, he was saving cats. And to me, you don't save cats when you're rage-filled, you burn down the tree that the cats are in and that's the problem.
No cats were harmed in the making of this podcast.
Yeah, exactly.
Lock it up, Matthew.
I thought it made him very fun. I think that an actor who was able to kind of turn down the charisma earlier in the movie and turn it up as the movie went on, I think would have been a more powerful performance.
There is some of that. I couldn't help but think about that in the very beginning. He's living in these slums, and I think to myself, this is just a bit of like, I don't know, irony that this movie is all about standing up to the execs. And they put a guy who looks like he was born with a blotter desk pad in his mouth. Like, he looks like an exec. That scene where he walks out of his apartment and he's walking down the street. It's like him and all Giovanni Ribisi's all wandering the street. Like, he sticks out like an absolute sore thumb as somebody who's like too handsome and too everything. And I guess I stand with Matthew. Like, imagine Richards, played by Giovanni Ribisi, in a 4-part serial. I would watch the heck out of that, because it's this everyman who is broken, who is broken by the world. And I struggled with the Hollywoodization of casting somebody I like very much, Glenn Powell, in this role, because from the jump, I had trouble believing he would be a good that he would ever have landed there. And that's horrible of me to even say. He's just too handsome for this place. He's just and that is just man, all due respect to Giovanni Ribisi, one of my favorite character actors working in Hollywood. Should have played Ben Richards.
Pete wants to see the Running Man with Paul Giamatti.
Tell me you wouldn't watch that movie. You tell me you wouldn't watch that movie.
I say, as someone Paul Giamatti's size, that would be the Waddling Man. It would not really work well.
I'm a little conflicted, because that's not what this was promising to be. This was promising to be a Hollywood action, splashy, fun movie. And I understand it's maybe not loyal to the book, or tonally it's different from Stephen King's novella. I get that. But I think they were at least honest in the marketing and honest in the promise of this. Using Glenn Powell, I think they were saying, we've made a certain version of this for you, and here it is. And I think that version was successful. But I would watch the 4-part series when it comes out. I will watch it.
And I think that might be a really interesting question of how Hollywood does marketing, because what I was getting was, and granted, I did not watch a preview. What I'd read, though, was interviews, And what I heard a number of times was, we're going to be more faithful than the 87 version was. And so I think that's why it's interesting, Mandy, you and I had such very different expectations going in.
Right.
Because I really felt like I was told, you loved the book, you were disappointed by Schwarzenegger, we're making this movie for you.
But they said more faithful, not totally faithful. Am I correct?
And it is
Yes,
night
they
and
did.
day in that the original Running Man, the Arnold Schwarzenegger, he's put into an arena. And that this is the entire world is after you. I remember reading the novella and then hearing a zillion years ago that the movie was coming out. And I was like, oh, you can't make that. It's too big. And I was right. They didn't. They put him in like an alley and then shot it from different angles. But it is funny to think that there was a time when this idea, this like road trip of a movie seemed impossible to put on screen, just too big. It's interesting.
Well, and that gets to the other big point that this movie is able to bring up because of the, pace of technological evolution, that this movie is as much a commentary on the fact that there are cameras everywhere. You couldn't have made this movie using the whole world in a time where there weren't cameras in everybody's pocket, right? The evolution of cameras everywhere is now DNA sniffers in light posts, which I actually thought was really cool and horrible. Just the general world that they built in for the Running Man competition to exist inside of, I thought was really effective, and also a good way to provide comment on I'll just say sort of the idiocracy of this time in which we are living and heading toward. What do you guys think of this?
I could just start and get out of the way real quick. My favorite part of this movie was my favorite part of the Schwarzenegger movie when Verhoeven did it, right? No. Did I just make that up?
It was not Verhoeven. No, it was Paul Michael Glaser,
Oh,
I was in
pick.
Starsky and Hutch. Now I'm going to direct a movie. Yeah.
As you do.
It has, though, a very Verhoeven run through it of satirical, like, I like seeing the world around the world and like the fake, like the different game shows, the commercials, all of that stuff. The I'd buy that for $1-ness
Yes.
of the world. That's my favorite part, is getting to see that kind of stuff. So yeah, I liked all of that very much.
And the Schwarzenegger on the 100. And Sean Hayes as a game show host,
That was fun.
All of those are fun.
The Americanos.
Yeah, the Americanos.
All of the Americanos. I mean, I think it was, again, the novella being written in the early 80s, but set in 2025. I think at that point, Stephen King could say, in the future, there will be a lot of cameras all over the place. So I think that we're in that place, allowed them to say, no, we're going to set this now. We're not going to have to kick it down the road another 30 or 40 years because we're not living in a surveillance state. We are. And so it makes it so that it's not such a strong reach, which again, I think puts it in a really good place to have that commentary on like, hey, these screens and shows are here to divide us. We need to turn that stuff off. And so for me, that was really, powerful piece to take something that may have at its time of conception in the original novella this is the path that we could be heading towards. Look at this dystopia now we're in this right now and we're going to stretch it a little bit, but putting a person on a hamster wheel and all of that. I mean, these are things that, yes, Tommy, they're funny, but again, it is, when was that idea actually pitched? A couple of years ago, probably. Type of things. It's not inconceivable that these things are there. So I think this world that they're in, and the fact that where Ben lives, and then you've got to get through a checkpoint to get to the nice, clean, wealthy part of town. That the haves and the have-nots type of thing is the, oh yeah, that's a little bit futury, but how far away from it are we to get you thinking about those things? High costs of medications and all of that. These are things that are very much in the news. So I felt like those are the things that just a matter of timeliness, again, helps, I think, reinforce and give some strength to what, as Mandy said, I was expecting just, Hollywood, I mean, look at the packed cast in this. I mean, that's what I'm expecting, all these names and faces, like that's what I wanted. It was popcorn fun, all that. I wasn't expecting this commentary piece to come in. Didn't bother me. I thought it was a nice little extra on top of that because I just really wanted to go have fun and it gave me something to think about. And I think that's probably why I'm enjoying it. Really enjoyed it a lot more as I got this bonus that I wasn't expecting.
That makes a lot of sense.
And I'll say I'm fully in agreement. I thought those parts were wonderfully done. One of my favorite moments was when he's in the room in Boston and he turns his back and you just see at the corner of the eye, the little camera go behind him. And I did think the book, it did a fantastic job of capturing something in the book of that sense of paranoia of all the time. And I really like the point you made about how it felt like it fits the modern day surveillance state and it fits the social media state that we're in now of just the constant being caught. And one thing I thought was also kind of a brilliant commentary that's not really in the book as much, but the way that particular Domingo's character, through his like narration of what's happening, is able to continually shift the audience away from having sympathy for him and twist what happened to make it look like actually he's a terrible person. And eventually that gets overwhelmed, understandably. But I thought that was also just brilliantly done and also a wonderful commentary on how easy it is to start hating people because the people on our screens are telling us they're the ones we're supposed to hate.
Right.
Propaganda.
But yes, AI clickbait. I liked when the video was instantaneously manipulated so that he was saying something else and he goes, well, that was fast.
Yeah.
It's like, that's,
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
because that's where we are. People can do shit like that. Oh, sorry. People can do stuff like that really quickly and effectively. And millions and millions of people are buying it. They're watching it and thinking, it's real. I'm seeing it with my eyes. This person must have really said this or done this. And it's sad.
Well, and I will say the visual effects on that front were really subtle and quite beautiful, right? The AI creations of Ben were subtly deformed, just the way we get AI now. Like there was some of the sound was not quite right. Some of the they just paid a great deal of attention to making it feel just wrong enough, and yet everybody's buying it, and yet they're selling it to the world. And I thought that was really cool.
You don't think he filmed both versions? You think they genuinely AI'd it?
No, I think they filmed it, but I think they degraded it,
Oh,
and they
okay,
made
cool.
the audio out of sync just a little bit, so his mouth wasn't always just quite right on, and like to make it look like it was generated, like it was created. I would love to see what they did because there are a lot of ways to get there, but I thought it was really it was subtle and cool. Our bad guys, our representation of the state is actually Josh Brolin, who, it's Josh Brolin, man. I feel like he's been waiting his career for this role.
Well, and this on the heels of Weapons, which I just saw. He is having a renaissance in such a
so good,
great
right?
way. I'm good for him. Because he has like a classic movie star thing about him, and he just rips it apart, and he's grotesque in movies. Good for him.
There is a bit of his like that he's everywhere. Like we talk about the cameras everywhere, but that like the screens are everywhere to an absurd degree.
Oh, and the plane, it was so well done.
The plane, they have the heads-up display filling the view for both the pilots is a TV watching The Running Man. I thought was delightful and subversive. But the fact when that screen goes south, there's another screen right below it that they can watch too. Like there are screens everywhere. Brolin is everywhere. What did you think of Killian the corporate menace, the smiling face of control? Was he the right antagonist for the movie? Tom already head is shaking.
Loved it.
Man, we've got head shaking, yeah.
And I thought it would be tough to beat Richard Dawson from the original because he was so iconic and so much fun. But I thought it was perfectly acted, perfectly cast. I loved it. He's such a great character and nicely updated to really be talking about how showbiz and how views and clicks work. So I really enjoyed him.
I thought him and Domingo were easily the two best cast, and because Dawson, you're right, was great, but he kind of combines those two roles, and I thought both of them were just so good, and because he just the amount of evil, but the amount of like the way he could give false sympathy to Ben Richards, It was great.
I differ a little bit about Coleman Domingo for one reason. When he was the host of the show, he was perfect, and I loved it. When he has that real aside with Josh Brolin and the people, and the fact that he talks in the exact same way, all of a sudden made it very disappointing for me. It made it feel like, oh, you're not making a choice. You're just this person all the time. If he had been different and like toned down when he was talking to Josh Brolin and then turned it on for the camera, that would have been electric. Unfortunately, I was a little let down by that.
I think that's interesting to me because one of the reasons I liked Domingo's performance is that he was exactly one note, and he was able to carry that one note until the audience turned against him, and then he walked. He was like, I can't work with this anymore, right? This is all I have to offer. If you take it that these two characters were split from the same character in the original movie, right? And and their identities are, there's the showman out front, the Dawson part, and there's the executive in the back who's never out front. I think having him be just this one trick pony until he could not work anymore was actually really, I liked it a lot.
That's an interesting point.
And I love it when he walks. Like, he's like, this is, do what you want. You created this, and there's nothing else I can do.
I like that point. That's interesting. No, I mean, I do. It gives me food for thought that there was, because I just accused him of not making a choice. And so I guess maybe I wanted more wriggling.
Yeah.
He was the face of evil, and he kind of gets to be like a great loved guy again at the end because he's walking out with his assistant. I think I just wanted everyone to be like, a little bit more.
Yeah.
Because I was so angry at the network. They're so gross and they don't care, and people are commodities. So I just wanted everyone to more Molotov cocktails.
Yeah.
And to me, him recognizing the problem, it's one of the reasons why I think those last minutes felt so rushed. Dan Killian feels like such an idiot in the last 5 minutes. How every sign was pointing to it. And he's supposed to be this brilliant guy who always knows what the public... He's supposed to be Heinrich Himmler. He is the brilliant propagandist who has led this fascist takeover, and he's too stupid to know what his host knows, that he's lost the audience?
Yeah, I don't know. You can get blinded by that.
It's hubris.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, this is an Icarus story.
Yeah, and I think it goes into that, catalyst trope that they keep bringing up of like, it's all there. They're just waiting for that flashpoint to set it off, and Killian doesn't realize that's what's happened. He thought, oh, they've always been there. I've been able to manipulate this. Everything he is about is, I will tell the falsehood to get the pieces where I want them to be, without realizing that there is something that is just building up beneath the surface that he's not aware of, is sort of how I took that it's, do I think that's the best way to handle that? I think that's one of it is a bit rushed. Is it really just that one thing is enough to set it over? I don't know that I got enough of that. I don't know if that's what the, story I was along for the ride was. I mean, it was great, but yeah, that's where, yes, we could have gotten more into that. But I think that's sort of how I'm walking away from this, saying he's just oblivious to the reality of that. Because people, what does he see from the people? The people excited to show up and see the show and be the audience. That's his perception of the masses out there, not the people out there in the streets, the rebellion that is fomenting against him, all that he has really no idea of that happening.
Yeah. In another example of how this movie is just all bombast and yet understated compared to the original adaptation, we have to talk about the hunters, who are not presented the same way. Did you expect more latex and neon, or did you get exactly what you wanted?
I'm going to speak first because I have nothing to compare it to. My only disappointment was when they said, tragically, we lost 6 hunters today, 5 men and 1 woman. And I had not seen a woman. I was disappointed. I would have liked to have gotten a sense of the different hunters, not just the guy who looked like a neo-Nazi and then Lee Pace at the end. I would like to have seen their faces and their eyes and their hunger and their bloodlust and gotten a glimpse into them.
which the Schwarzenegger movie really does. I mean, everyone is like an American gladiator.
Yes.
No, I'm agreeing with you, Mandy, because that one they're all like wrestling people. Like there's a guy who's like an opera singer and he's covered in light bulbs. And there's a guy who just has a chainsaw. There's all these
There's
crazy
jetpack guy.
They're all these crazy characters, and these people were all just sort of pretty straightforward.
We didn't even see them, really. They were so shrouded.
Except for when they were bellhops, and then when they were pilots, the airline crew. Like, I like that they were so subtly sort of they were playing the same game, right? They had costumes and disguises and things, and I actually really like that, except for Lee Pace, who had the gimp mask.
Who pissed him off? He was just oh, what a sourpuss.
Yeah.
That was actually his hunter's name.
In the first draft of the script, he spit lemons.
Yeah.
I thought he was fantastic and creepy and, intimidating. I forgot Lee Pace was in the credits. So when he pulled his mask off, I was like, oh, it's Lee Pace. Like, I was
That's
happy.
Pushing Daisies.
I was just happy to know who it was and not have it be like, oh, it's a faceless, nameless person that I have been afraid of the whole movie. It was fun.
Yeah. Yeah. I did too. I think you talk about another guy who's got a lot going on right now with his work in Foundation, which is outstanding. And now this, I like seeing Lee Pace anywhere he shows up. I do think the turn that we get, I mean, you talk about how the end of the movie is speedy. The turn that we get Powell offered his own show, and then immediately we meet Lee Pace, the guy who was also offered his own deal. It was, I guess, in the spirit of character economy, predictable. I didn't mind it. I didn't mind them coming face to face with his sort of history on the plane there. I thought that played for me.
And while we're talking actors, can we talk Amelia Jones?
Why didn't she sing? They didn't give her anything to sing.
But I'm on a big epiphany journey with her because I watched Task and she was so good, and I did not connect the Coda dots, and I love Coda so deeply, but I had seen it years ago when it came out, so I wasn't aware that I was watching this masterful young actress, and then here she is, totally different again. She's wonderful, and I love her. That's my speech about Amelia Jones.
I thought that journey of the person who lives in stereotypes being, slapped in the face with a reality, and her having that truly human moment of being able to see past, what she's always been told this person is, but to have the human connection. That scene is the heart and soul of the book, and I thought that they really captured it well. And I was really pleased with that. I thought the whole thing about the scarf especially was such a nice touch there.
And where did he use the scarf? To hold in his intestines. Yeah. Nailing it. Just nailing it. Is this movie, as we get to wrapping up here, is this movie truly dystopian, or is it just Tuesday? I walk out a little bit and I think we're at this point where we're like maybe post-dystopian film, because it's like we've caught up to the dystopian communications infrastructure or that we always knew was coming because we saw movies in the 80s, and now we've arrived, and I wonder what the message is. What'd you walk away with overall?
I'm constantly looking for trash barrels that are on fire. I feel like that's the sign of final endgame dystopia, is people warming their hands around a trash fire and their gloves don't have fingers. Ooh, dystopia.
Yep. Watch the original Rocky. That was just Philadelphia in the 70s.
That's right. Philadelphia was a leading indicator.
Yeah, we don't have a lot of flame barrels in Sherman Oaks.
I do have a question before I go drink, because I can't think about dystopia. Thanks a lot, Pete. But I do have a logistical question about the movie, if I may. If he's mailing his videos, can't they immediately track his location? based on where that little mailbox.
That's what they
Oh.
said.
They
that.
say he does. They say they promise they won't, but one of the conspiracy theory videos that the Apostle was making talks about that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Although you have to admit, cool mailboxes.
Oh, yeah.
Am I right?
Yeah.
To your question, Pete. Oh, that's a great question, Mandy. Thank you. To your question, Pete, though, honestly, I think the most dystopian thing is that a very dark, grim novel about dystopia gets turned into a Hollywood fun movie that shows revolution is so easy. But putting aside even the meta part, I did think this was a kind of a Disneyland trip through dystopia, much more than actual dystopia. And one thing that I noted, like, I've been hearing a lot of conversation about how we're becoming more of a puritanical society in a lot of ways. And this is going to sound weird. I want to be clear. Like the 80s days of you can't have an R-rated movie without having a topless woman somewhere. That I'm not saying we want to go back to that. But in the book, again, the dystopian is also very sexual. Like there's an awful lot of kind of sexual dystopia in terms of sex work and naked women everywhere, naked men everywhere. To me, there was something so striking that in this, they toned down all of that. As I said, they make his wife a stripper and not a prostitute. But the thing that most struck me was that this is an R-rated movie. We get a lot of very bloody, gory scenes. And then in the scene when his friend Lachlan is caught in bed with a couple of naked women before, she's caught, they blur out their nudity. And that it just was so striking to me of like, okay, this is the day where, at first I was like, oh, did they do that for a PG-13 rating or something? And then realized, no, wait, this is an R-rated movie. There's exploding heads everywhere. But we can have exploding heads, but we can't have any nakedness. And the sexuality of it entirely has just been very toned down. And so I thought that was just it's an interesting, it used to be dystopia meant incredibly exploitative, and I'm glad we're not there anymore. I do think it's interesting that now our image of dystopia has swung so far in another direction.
Well, there were a lot of strip clubs. Like in the surviving buildings, there were many live, nude clubs and stuff. So I think it was implied, just not explicit.
It's actually a really interesting thing. Like, because I don't know, can you say that the choice to blur was diegetic blur?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
The network is showing them cursing all the time, is showing live death on screen.
Right.
Yes.
But is blurring out naked bodies.
Right.
Mhm.
Right.
But that feels very American.
Yes.
Yeah, it feels
It
very
feels
like
like
where we are.
that's the choice. That's what Freevee would censor. That's what their choice would be to censor. And I think it's like it loves violence because violence begets ratings. And apparently nudity is not so good for ratings. It's fascinating.
Wasn't there an actual Freevee network?
I think there still is, isn't there?
Everything from Freevee moved back to Prime Video, so it doesn't exist anymore. But it was going to be an offshoot of Prime Video.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
that's really funny. It was, yeah. God, isn't that strange that it was that it existed and they kept the name Freevee?
Can I ask a question before we wrap up?
Yeah.
So first, did any of you watch The Long Walk or read the book?
Both.
Okay, I will avoid spoilers, but I'll just say that The Long Walk is also very dystopian. It's a Netflix movie. It's much darker than this, but it also has a happier ending than the book. I'm wondering both, because you all are more inside Hollywood than I am, but also just in theories, is it just a weird coincidence that this happened twice? Is it that Stephen King kind of was looking at his oeuvre and wanting some movies made that were maybe put a more hopeful sheen on it? Is it just that Hollywood isn't... I'm kind of curious if people have any theories about this interesting thing of like these two very dark novels being turned into much more, at least somewhat more hopeful, particularly with the endings change significantly, happening within literally a month of each other.
That's the dystopia we live in, where we're fed the dark stories with the happy ending. We call it dystopia plus now, where everything's shiny and all of that, where we're not exploiting and destroying people's bodies, we're just extracting economic wealth out of them. And now it's not the physicality of it, it's the, spiritual, emotional, and economic exploitation of the people and draining them that way. And so, I think it is a very meta thing to think about, that will feed you the dark and ugly is a little tease, but we want your money and we want you to walk out of here feeling good that you bought a good product. And so you walk out feeling happy rather than, yes, we're going to take your $20 or whatever. And you're coming out of here feeling horrible, realizing that we held up a mirror to you and you're seeing how bleak and horrible things actually are. So that's sort of my little take on that.
And there's a version of it, but it was a horror movie where a writer and a director made a much better ending to a story that didn't have an ending. Pete knows what I'm talking about. The Mist.
One of the best.
That The Mist, kind of like the novella of The Long Walk, they have non-endings. Things just keep going. The Mist, it says they hear something on the radio, 2 words. One word is Hartford. The other word sounds like hope. The end. They just drive off into the mist. Same with the end of The Long Walk. No spoilers, but someone just sort of runs off into the mist. There's no real ending. So I think maybe that's the difference, is that you can leave people in the dirt if you're making a horror movie. But if we're making a dystopian action movie, we have to lift people up at the end.
Yeah.
The end of this movie, I mean, I didn't actually make the connection to my lizard brain thinking that there might be a sequel to this movie until Matthew said it. And then I realized, oh my God, he totally lives, and his last action is one of agency in a world where he had none. He is now a revolutionary leader. Holy crap, is there going to be a sequel to this movie? The big question is, would you watch it?
Is Glenn Powell in it?
He has to be in it. So I guess that's a non-starter. Yeah, okay.
I've seen it. It's called The Mockingjay. It was pretty good.
Yeah.
But,
man, I don't know what to think about it. This was the book. I need about 45 more minutes to finish it. I'm pretty excited about it now that it's totally spoiled for me. But the book is one of those things that it feels to me like such a it's going to be the wrong word, but sort of a precious entity. I now appreciate the book so much more than I ever did the original movie. I do think this movie will age. This version of the movie is going to age positively on me. I think it did what it needed to do. And once I give up a little bit of my own preciousness about Edgar Wright and being disappointed, I think I'll be able to move on. I think the movie's going to age well. Tom, you're nodding. So you have hope?
Agree. I completely agree with that. I wish, like I kind of said, I didn't mean to say this movie was bad because Edgar Wright directed it. It was, I wish Edgar Wright didn't direct it, or I didn't know that Edgar Wright directed it.
Yeah.
Because I need to see it again with that, now that I know that while I'm looking for scene after scene of the staircase in Michael Cera's place, shoving all the guys off the staircase, that's what I wanted that when I think of Edgar Wright. And there's not a lot of that.
And that felt so out of tone for this movie.
Right. And that's him sort of pushing back. And so I just need to see it with new eyes. And then I think it will age. I like that way of saying it very much.
One of that sequence also has one of the most Edgar Wright framings in this movie, especially if you compare it to something like Last Night in Soho, where we have the close-up on on Sarah, and he's walking through the slideshow, and it cuts to this is what they did to him, and you see just the very tiny reflection of the slides in his glasses. Edgar Wright has always done really fun things in backgrounds and reflections, and this was like that little taste, that little glimmer of, oh, yeah, okay, so he still remembers how to do it.
I feel like that whole sequence is the day that the suits from the studio didn't come to set. So you're like, quick, build me a staircase that does
whatever we want.
I need a super soaker. Like, he just went off script and just did his own fun thing.
But what if the panic room is full of bras?
Small representation moment as a person who is quite on the heavy side. In the book, he's a very heavy character, and there's a kind of like beauty in him finding a way to be heroic as someone who's been teased about his body all his life. That on the one hand I was missing, but on the other hand, if they put Michael Cera in a fat suit, it would have been a million times
it would have been worse.
So glad, you know?
Oh yeah. Well, and Michael Cera seemed to be the grown-up Kevin McAllister.
Right.
Yes.
Am I the only one that made that
Right.
association?
No, totally.
Yeah.
Yes.
I didn't
Not
think
until
about
just
that
now,
at all.
and it's perfect. Okay, team. Well, I am just relieved that this movie wasn't terrible. And now we have to do what we do. We have to go to the Letterboxd Matt, letterboxd.com/thenextreel, where you can find all the reviews and the notes on all the movies we've talked about on the Next Reel family of podcasts. And we're going to rate it. We're going to give it our 5 stars, give it our stars and hearts. That's where the stars and hearts live. I am no half stars. And remember, Tom always has to take stars from other movies.
Absurd.
And most of those stars come from The Finest Hours, which is now a negative 80 or something.
True. Yes. Yeah.
So, okay, Mandy, how many stars do you give it, a heart or not?
Oh, I was afraid. You were going to start with me. I have to be honest. The more I think about it, the more I like it. And the more we talk about it, the more I like it. And I don't see a lot of these movies. And as some astute listeners know, I walk out of some of these movies when I'm displeased. So I'm going to say 4 stars and a heart.
Wow. This is a huge day.
Now, had it starred anyone else, negative 25. No. Just kidding. It was a great movie.
Matthew, where are you going to go?
So I think I found that this was one of my favorite podcasts that I've done with you all, because I think I really learned something important, because the commentary people made about kind of pushing back on me of that, why aren't you expecting it to be a Hollywood dystopia? Like, I think this is going to get me to stop hoping Hollywood is going to do what TV is doing in terms of things like Andor and The Boys and stuff like that. And so then a lot of it's probably just my having mixed expectations. And so given that, I think I know you don't want half stars.
Oh, you can do half stars.
No, he can't.
No, but I want to respect that. I want to respect that. So I'm going to give it 3.25 stars.
Okay.
I had some problems with it, but I felt a lot of it was well done. And like Saving Private Ryan, I'll just remember to turn it off in the last 5 minutes.
Nice.
Wow. Shade at Spielberg right there at the end.
Was it worth it? Sorry, I hate the ending of Saving Private Ryan so much, but anyway, go on.
For crying out loud. Did you give it a heart? I missed that.
No, I don't. I give the book a heart. I don't give the movie a heart.
Oh, okay. Steve.
Yeah.
Hi.
I have stars to give. I will give whole stars today because I'm all in on this one. And Mandy, yes, right there with you. 4 stars and a big old heart for this one. I had so much fun. Look forward to seeing it again. Yeah, was just a thrilling, fun ride. And maybe it's because I went in with no expectations other than it's going to be a man and he's going to be running. And I just enjoyed everything that happened on top of that.
That's the better way to do it.
Yes.
Truth in advertising. Okay, Tom.
This is exciting because this has not happened a lot for me, but I came into this conversation at a 3 and I'm leaving at a 4. I'm flashing forward to my future self who knows what not to look for and what to expect, and completely stealing Pete's idea of this will age well. I'm going to go ahead and give it the 4 that I'm pretty sure it's going to be. So 4 and a heart.
I love it.
I think he took that extra star from Y2K, as I recall. I think that's where that came from.
I think Steve and I could start a cult, and Tommy would be our first recruit.
I know. I'm a real acolyte this week. Yeah.
Well, I am right there with you. I am a 4 and a heart. I did have a blast, and I'm so glad we picked this one and not a real stupid movie like we most often do on this show.
Everyone looks at me.
Yeah.
This has been awesome, everybody. Now, I have to say, if you're into podcasts, which I hope you are, you're going to go check out Make Me a Nerd with Mandy Kaplan, because you're going to learn all about what Mandy is learning about. And now I wonder if Mandy's going to do the original Running Man on that show. Somebody better vote for that.
That's interesting.
I'm game.
It is interesting. Oh, I think Matthew, who you also can hear on the Make Me a Nerd podcast as a frequent guest, might be a future guest to talk about The Running Man and all of the shows of the Ethical Panda.
Except I would take a back seat if you could get someone from the Most Excellent 80s podcast.
Chrissy.
Because I think that would also be a very good crossover.
They have done that show, the Running Man on their show. You can see, you can listen to Matthew on Marvel Movie Minute. We're talking about Thor: The Dark World. You guys, it's almost over. Things are going to get better. You can hear Once and Future Parent with me and Mandy. You can hear the Superhero Ethics podcast and the Star. Yeah, and you. Yeah, this is all about you. And also the Star Wars Generations podcast. You can see all of those on True Story FM. And Tommy, we're talking about life and emotions on All the Feelings / adulting, adulting. And Steve, who is just ever present since the founding of True Story FM and has run podcasts and is now a guest emeritus on movie shows. Thanks, Steve, for your support and your wisdom.
And your beard.
And your beard.
We're having trouble landing this plane. What is this, the Running Man?
Hey, don't you how dare you, sir?
Hey, I just, you know what? I'll say, I don't want to have spoilers, but I had a great conversation with Mandy about a movie, and it was surprising because she said, after seeing me only on the film board and all the garbage movies we talk about here all the time, she was so excited to see me having joy, expressing joy about the movie we were talking about. So
the nerve.
I'm not always grouchy. Right. Yes.
The garbage board.
The garbage board. Hey, this has been really fun. Again, thank you, dear listener, for your time and your attention. We hope you'll jump over to the Discord community. It's free over there, truestory.fm/Discord. And if you really love what we do, jump over to truestory.fm/join, and you can become a supporting member. Keep the mics hot and the lights on. And there are more perks, too. We love your support. Whatever you do now, make sure go watch more movies, and we'll see you next month. Because wait, we should announce it. What are we doing, Tom?
We are going to, we believe we have recorded episodes about the first two movies. We're going on that, and we are going to be watching Rian Johnson's third Knives Out movie, Wake Up Dead Man, a Knives Out mystery, available on Netflix and in a couple theaters.
We're very excited about that, and that's coming for our December pick. Until then, have a happy holiday season, whatever holiday that is for you, and we will see you back here next month. Meeting adjourned.